Yeah, so look, myself, Robbie, and Jack here beside me are just like super excited to share with you the concept of our course that we've just sort of brainstormed before Christmas, and here we are, like welcoming you all to what it's all about. We're just to say hi to some of you in the audience that we're familiar with, and you might know us, and then those of you who are new to us, welcome to the LifeFit Studio. We're going to just do a little intro on each of us first, so you get a feel for who's teaching the course, and then we will get to the nuts and bolts of it. So look, I'm John Phelan, otherwise known as the Bike Fit Physio, but I'd like to think that I have a bit more to offer, well, a lot more to offer than the title. I suppose my entry into health professional career started back in 2000 with a degree in nutritional science, and then a kind of a spate of work inside the gym instruction circles. But then it was kind of onto physiotherapy. And one of the drivers that when I think back, that kind of pushed me into that area was actually my own experience with a persistent back pain that went on for 6 years plus. And I can safely say now, looking back, that I was like the subject of some pretty poor treatment. Like you're talking.
Not by us.
No, this was like not asking questions like how my beliefs and my thoughts were about my back pain, and not getting much clinical reasoning. Instead, maybe going in with the big elbow and lots of deep tissue work. And I was told to get orthotics at one point and just never got better. Made it to physiotherapy, and we learned quickly about the psychosocial and holistic approach to patients and to physio care. And that then started my recovery, 100% recovery, but also like my enthusiasm into this holistic and all-encompassing healthcare. And that's actually where I met this man, Jack, because when I got back to Ireland, he was also looking at this approach, and we kind of lined up equally there, and have been in this LifeFit studio since then. So then also my bike fitting background started 8 years ago. I've moved strength by strength every year. I'm up to 1,200 people have come in for bike fits over the 8 years. And over that time, I've attended courses and conferences on bike fitting and injuries related to cycling, but also a lot of conferences on exercise physiology and like performance physiology. Like last summer, I was over in Bilbao for 3 days, and it was like, by the end, I was exhausted. Like, just exercise physiology coming out my ears. But what I try to do is kind of take down the nuggets of it, and then I can then deliver that in my metabolic testing service that I have with clients that come in here. So VO2 max testing, gas testing, they leave with the data on their own physiology, but I hopefully give them a better understanding of that as part of their report. I offer a service around running gait analysis, and which ties nicely in with like a triathlete package, around the biking, as you know. But what I want to get across is my last recent 3 years in coaching. So it's something that I've just been really enjoy doing. I have one client in the audience tonight, H&A, and also like it gives me a chance to like use all the learnings that I have over the however many years, like half my life, to just kind of get across in a fashion that the client likes. So like I have a big interest in health and well-being, and listening to podcasts over the years, Huberman and the Live Well podcast, and I've just collected this information, and this goes out to my clients in a recent Monday message. And like the reason why I'm so excited for this TriFit course is that it gives me another chance to impart these nuggets in a kind of a health, and not just the athletes. So like we know it's geared towards triathletes and adventure racers and endurance athletes, and we know you're a motivated group and you're committed, but we want to get across the importance of that kind of health and to be training in a healthy fashion. So that's my background in a nutshell, and why I'm just buzzed about the course. Over to you, Jay.
Over to me. So look, we three of us kind of got together even a couple of months ago, and we were kind of seeing a big gap in the triathlon field, in adventure racing field, and all of that. Pretty much in every sport, there's nearly a gap of knowledge and a gap of knowing for the athlete, and how kind of lost that can make you feel in your particular journey. And that resonates with me, because when I was younger, playing a lot of hurling and football and so on, you know, I'd go to physio. It'd be fine while the physio is there showing me how to do an exercise. But because I didn't really have a clue why or how it was relevant or anything like that, I'd go home, maybe do it the first night, kind of very, very not confident whether I was doing it right or causing myself more harm, more damage. The exact same experience the second night, only worse. And by the third night, I probably wouldn't be doing it at all. And then an injury that should have taken 6 weeks to overcome is still there 12 weeks later, and it's always niggling me and so on. So when I went to study physio and all that later, like, that was a huge driving factor for me, is how do I understand the phenomenon behind that, and how do I kind of unravel it and help people not have that experience.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that three of us, we all have that same philosophy in mind. Like, we're very much about the autonomy of the individual, the kind of the agency of the individual, that, look, I'm not going to fix you, but I'm on a road to finding out how to fix myself, and I will guide you along that same road. I might be further down that road than you are, but I'll bring you as close as I can to my level and show you how to even maybe get beyond my level as well. And you'll have ways in which you can share with me and how I can improve. But we're all on the same path. I think there's a bit of an issue in all of medicine fields where it's like they're on one road and us patients are on another, and it's like there's this whole disconnect. Whereas, look, we all have bodies. That's why I loved studying physiotherapy. When I started it as a guest. I didn't really know totally why I wanted to start something like that, but as soon as I did, I realized, Jesus, this is amazing, because I have a body. I can relate everything I'm learning to me, to how to improve myself and so on.
And my knee, by the way, remember earlier today before the presentation?
Yeah.
He's we're sharing each other's knowledge, and we're able to, fix each other's issues. That you can't get all the answers all the time.
It's a big thing. Like, I mean, as I said, like, we become each other's therapists in many ways. Like, so I have loads of strings in my bow that John doesn't have, and John has loads in his bow that I don't have. And same with Robbie, and we are able to feed that amongst each other. And like, one great thing about like the two lads is they're curious. Like, that's a philosophy I have in life. Don't be judgmental, be curious, because at least then you're always willing to learn. And hopefully, that's why you're here, or part of why you're here as well, to have a bit of a joy in the learning, So that's pretty much me. I'm a bit of a nut when it comes to biomechanics and pain science and things like that, and the philosophy of agency and autonomy. And sometimes I can get carried away with those things and maybe overshare or whatever. But look, that's my passion, and I hope maybe to kind of guide your own passion in that as well as the course develops and as you join us on this journey. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to pass you over to Robbie. He's going to give you his own background. All you.
Next one. Hello, everybody. So I'm Robbie O'Driscoll. I've 12 years experience working with the body and movement. Prior to that, I was an electrician for 11 years, but that wasn't for me.
Fixed the light there earlier.
Yeah, I fixed the light earlier. Fixing bodies and lights. I started off personal training, which ended up in a personal training studio of my own, and that expanded onwards to a movement center that I ran for 5 years, called a Cafe Move Cork. And I closed that center 2020 when COVID came along. And as soon as we were permitted to go back out into the working space, I changed over to working as a private clinician and opened a physical therapy practice then. And I have been doing that since. To do some name dropping, I've trained with Charles Poliquin, Ido Portal, and Fighting Monkey, if that is, if those are familiar with you at all. And multiple schools of thought on strength and movement. I've always been looking to expand my understanding of the human body in both wellness and performance, the middle ground of which I've come to consider play itself, this creative act of physical expression. And I've really embraced this concept of play, and it's transformed my relationship with physicality itself. I would have always been a kind of like a pusher, get it done, get it smashed, anything less. is weakness. Whereas when I've come to recognize, again, like I say, this act of physical expression being a creative, playful one, all my performance across all my endeavors, like I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player and a recreational sea swimmer, and I take the play philosophy over to those places, and it carries me well because I don't really get hurt, and I enjoy every second of it. And this is something I want to impart on you, this quality of enjoying the process, both in training and competition. I think I'd like to rekindle the honeymoon phase, if I'm going to be bringing something to this. The honeymoon phase that you might have had when you first got into triathlon. I'm not too sure, I don't know your history yet, but I'm presuming that you're an endurance athlete of some or all of those disciplines in triathlon. And I'd imagine that you did at one point have a huge excitation for it. It's a very exciting thing. And I've worked with multiple Ironmen up to late, I still do, and endurance athletes. And what I learn across the board is it switches from this adventure into this kind of like data slavery and a constant, how would I put it? It's a bit of a slog, yeah. They kind of fall out of love with it a small bit, and then they question why they're doing it at all. And again, I impart this concept of it being a playful act, that eventually we're all players in this large game, like, but you guys are athletes playing this game, but you might have lost this lens of it being playful and just this constant state of I got to improve these numbers, and that could be at the expense of your psyche or your physical well-being. So this is pretty much the core element I'd like to bring in to this TriFit course. And again, I want to stay on course with introducing myself a bit more. I mentioned I'm a recreational sea swimmer, a jiu-jitsu player. I'm also a father of two, so I appreciate what's involved with time management, being a professional, a father, and I suppose like an appreciator of the body and movement and experiencing it and enjoying the body. And what else would I get across to you guys in introducing myself? I think I've got most of it, but if I do my job well, I have given you tools that you can have this body awareness that enhances what we call a kinetic intelligence, where you can move across the water, on wheels, on land, as a single muscle in a type of tensionless but tension state that doesn't drift into excessive tension and doesn't drift into floppy leakage of power. And that you're in that sweet spot, that you're almost in this flow-like state, enjoying what you're doing. I hope I'm getting that message across. And not to knock the joy of smashing it too, because I also, as a jiu-jitsu player, I enjoy the smash, the push, but not at the expense of your physical integrity or your composure. I'd like to get across this maintenance of composure and enjoyment while still applying your full effort. And that's it, me in a nutshell. I'll tell you more in a moment. We're about to go through the course curriculum as we planned it. Some of us will be taking leads on different elements, but in general, we'll be sharing everything. Like, so every session you show up to in person, we'll all be there. Every webinar you show up, we'll all be there. And the questions and answers, we'll all be there. But in some portions where I have more strength than the lads or experience, I'll be the lead, and vice versa. And in some portions, we have equal knowledge, or we have educated each other in what we want to impart with you. So I suppose without further ado, I'll hand you back to Jack.
So I suppose what's next, we'll just take you through. So you probably know by now, it's a 6-week course. There's one in-person workshop a week, which is about 90 minutes thereabouts. No, we can always hang out after and have a chat. We have a lovely cozy corner behind us, which we'll show you later. Some of you have been here and you know it. We have one webinar a week. It's an hour-long webinar, which will be on a particular topic. And then we have one Zoom Q&A a week. So that gives you a chance to send in any questions throughout the week, to be developing your own questions, things that you want us to be figuring out, that we'll address then in that Q&A. And it's basically 6 weeks of that magic. So just do a quick overview of the different parts of the workshop. Right, so week 1. So the workshop, that's the in-person workshop here at the studio, which will be mainly led by Robbie. It's the terminology of movement. So we'll be doing like full body multi-joint movements, so how all the different things relate to each other. Then we'll be doing a webinar on the physiology of endurance training. Again, dealing over buzzwords like VO2 max, etc. Training smart, working a little bit on the breath, and then the Q&A at the end of the week. For week 2, skin in the game. And this will be mostly John, so we'll be doing a lot of testing, strength and mobility, or strength and conditioning and mobility, and to give you an idea of what parts of your body that need to be really robust and strong for being the most amazing triathlete you can be. I'll be doing this webinar, Recover and Thrive, that I've been running out to over 30,000 Northern Irish civil service staff over the last 2 years. Deals a lot on pain and stress management, mobility and injury prevention. Again, followed by a Q&A at the end of the week. Week 3, attention to detail. That's the workshop. We'll go through pedal technique, bike posture, tendon re and prehab, and plyometrics. We'll kind of be breaking you up into different rooms and groups for that. The webinar will be the shoe and the saddle. So pelvic health, the footwear you need on the bike, and so on. And again, a Q&A. Week 4, behind the scenes, is the workshop. So that's recovery, stress management. You know, it's hugely important. There's no point kind of beating your body up when you don't have a way to kind of allow it to adapt to all the stress that it adapts to. The webinar is Race Nutrition and the Science of Recovery. So where the current research is, pyramid of recovery, subject of a study, and so on. Followed again by a Q&A. Week 5, the workshop again is the subtle skills. So I'll be going through a lot on the foot, how that's so important, why it's so important. The breath, same for that. The webinar here is Saddling the Dragon. This is a lot about mindset, agency, autonomy, and joy. You know, we want to get back to loving what we do. Again, followed by a Q&A. And then week 6, the well-rounded athlete will be your in-person workshop. We'll be doing some running gait analysis. We'll be recapping a lot of the stuff that we did right throughout the workshop. Again, we'll do an in-person kind of Q&A on that night. And that's the end. So we'll have a bit of a, you know, a cup of tea and a coffee and a big chat and so on. That is pretty much the overview, the very general overview. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand you over to Robbie. And Robbie's going to go through his sections that he'll be taking lead on in a little more detail. So the first one he has is the terminology of movement.
The terminology of movement, this will be your introduction to our in-house workshop session. And it might sound a little bit boring, so I'm not going to be talking, I'm not going to go through the board and just the words of it, but we're going to get you to a capacity in which you're as coachable as possible. So what I mean by that is, for example, the terms we use to help you organize yourself in space. For example, elevation of the shoulder blades, depression of the shoulder blades, protraction, retraction, and then how we integrate them in movement, and then how we load them in different manners, be it above head loading or below the hip line loading, and all that in between. We'll be covering the thoracic mobility, spinal mobility at large, but the reason I mentioned thoracic mobility straight off the bat is in relation to your swimming performance, that we want to integrate your thoracic mobility with this, with the complexity that the scapula can, I suppose, endure, so that your swimming stroke is not as inhibited as most people I come across in my clinic, and that it has free flowing, that you're moving from the scapula using your entire torso, including that of the lat, and that you're not restricted across your cervical spine or thorax when you're coming around for your breath. So all the strength and mobility drills that I'll be covering in this section will be relative to the disciplines of triathlon. It'll be the same for going through the hips, organizing your pelvis, anterior tilting, posterior tilting. So again, when you're working with John in the nuanced details, when John would say something to you like patinated, a little bit more posterior tilt, then you know exactly what I was talking about. What do you mean, John? We'll have all that covered here, and you'll have takeaway practice also to go over everything we did in that session. What I mean by that is, in that session, we'll be going through the strength and mobility, the educational elements of it, and then we'll be emailing you out the actual takeaway practice that you will have for 6 weeks. So it won't be just a week of practice, it'll be 6 weeks of training in your own time that we have pre-covered and will support you along the way, so that you're basically training and developing from the get-go. I think you probably understand what's happening here. I'll be going through the hip and the other joints of the body. And another session I'll be taking the lead on is behind the scenes section, where we're going to be going over recovery and stress management. A lot of this will be what you can do again at home when you're not training or you're not doing all your professional personal obligations, so that you're using your downtime in the most sensible fashion possible. I'll be using the floor as the physical therapist, to be honest, and I'll be teaching you intelligent ways to improve your mobility, but under more of a passive approach. I like to call these positions of repose. You'll be spending a lot of time on the floor, a lot of time, I suppose, switching into the parasympathetic state, meaning that you're going into this recovery mode, this rest, digest, mellowing out. So this, in fact, teaching this will probably be a bit of a joy. It'll be laid back, mellow, and if I get my job right on this one, you should leave this place like liquid.
And the music, you're gonna have that music too.
Oh, and I'll have the music going. I'm music fueled, so everything I'll do will have music behind it. And the last thing that I'll be leading, but the lads will certainly be supporting, is on this Saddling the Dragon webinar, which taps into what I was talking about in my introduction, and restoring the joy back into your practice, or if it was never there, instilling the joy into your practice. And just to give a quick hint at it, we'll be talking about mindset and elements of psychology. One part would be the inner critic and how to utilize the critical part of yourself that we all have, such that we're not in a state of scolding, but that we're using this, this awareness of our personal cueing. For example, I'm no stranger to someone saying, I'm an idiot and I'm so uncoordinated, or God damn it, I'm an idiot, that, or so forth and so on. It always seems to be this scolding fashion, but we're going to stay with the cue that the critic offers, the inner critic, and boil it right down to what it is you've noticed in your practice that needs to be modified, then modifying it so that you develop your personal ability to articulate your own coaching, your own critique. And then over time, this inner critic that might have been pretty articulatively poor and more of an insulter, because maybe you've been exposed to coaches or teachers or parents or whoever it's been who's been leading you along the way, has not been very articulative or poetic perhaps in how to cue you into performing to your best. I'm going to be assisting you in this webinar on how to twist that around and make that inner critic your collaborator, your partner. The dragon, we're going to put a saddle on his back. And I hope that makes sense. And again, if anything I've said in any of these elements isn't so clear, we have the questions and answers at the end, and I'm more than happy to spend the whole night with you talking about things to make sure you have the clarity. I think it's over to John next, or Jack next. John?
So I'm straight in at week 1 after Robbie's movement workshop. I'm going to be delivering the webinar the following day. So, you know, this would be my bread and butter over the last 5 years, the physiology of endurance training. And I know, as well as you know, that there's a lot of buzzwords about, there's like VO2 max, there's threshold, there's sweet spot, there's zone 2. And I just wanted to get these terms clear in everyone's head. And then by knowing the terms, you can play the game. Like Robbie talks about gamifying the process. So I'm game with that. I want us to play the game smart, and to, like the game of triathlon or adventure racing, to do the right types of training at the right times and to understand why you're doing it. So that's our one of our principles, is to train smart, not hard. And this would be my kind of responsibility here. And then the breath, you see it coming through the different weeks. In this sense, it's like breath mechanics. With my testing kit, I can measure breath volume and breath rate. And we know from the science of performance is that the breath rate actually does sink in nicely with your zones. So a lot of people out there think, oh, I'm going to try to breathe calmly when I'm up in the zone 5 VO2 max. It's actually the opposite. You need to move the air in and out so that you can support that type of energy demand. So we're gonna talk about how you can use this to your benefit in your sport. The next week, we call this skin in the game. It's like basically, game is coming up again, but are you strong enough? Are you robust enough? Are you bulletproof enough? So this is where we're going to test everyone, do some baseline testing. We're each going to take a part of the body that is very much linked to triathlon. I'll personally be looking at the calf and ankle, Robbie the shoulder, and Jack the hip. But we're going to be splitting you up into groups of 3, and we'll be taking these measurements down, and then at least you guys then have something to work with and to play with and to improve over the course of the 6 weeks. But more realistically, beyond that, these things take a bit longer than that. But yeah, this is, and again, we're going to be talking about the science here is so strong that if you can make yourself strong, you're going to reduce your chance of injury in endurance sports. Following that, we got some work here. Look, it's like attention to detail is week 3. Like this is my, again, pedal technique, bike posture. Robbie talked about the pelvis and the orientation of the pelvis. This is so important here that you guys understand what we're talking about, how to dissociate it. You know, there are times where we want you to change this part of your body, but keep the upper back still. So this is going to be coming into the bike posture, and we'll be set up here. You can imagine like a couple of turbo trainers with you know, the center bike, myself, and just giving you like on live you know, feedback on your bike posture, on your pedal technique, talking about high cadence, low cadence. I was at a spin class last night and learned a few more learning tips that I wasn't aware of myself. So like, yeah, I want to impart that on you guys. We'll look at the tendon prehab and rehab. You see, right here is an important area because it's a big interest of mine is tendon health. And I think I am right in saying some of you have had some issues with your Achilles, your patella tendon, your gluteal tendon, anyone that's running and cycling, and you know, this is a high risk environment. So we're going to show you how to prehab these areas so that you reduce your chances of picking up an injury, and also like how you manage a tendon injury. It's not just strength training, it's actually around loading and knowing that kind of sweet spot. Jack talks about this proximal development, and that will come in there. Plyo, then Robbie has his eye on that. This, I saw him training it the other morning. He's into this stuff. It's like when you have a strength base, you then want to apply stiffness and power, and that is a really key part of training for triathlon. I'll come in with the webinar the following day, calling the shoe and the saddle. Basically, there's a lot that could be said around the foot. Jack will cover it at a later date, but I will cover it in terms of what we should be wearing on our feet when we're cycling. The necessity of a wider shoe in certain instances, but also that contact point itself. What's happening between the shoe and your foot, the shoe and the pedal. It's a really key contact point in the bike, and I'll be giving you what I know on that. The saddle is a massive complex, well, it can be seen as a complex subject, but actually I've got a nice way that I've learned over the 8 years of how to understand what saddle you should belong on. It really shouldn't be complicated. So we're going to give you examples of like different styles of sitting, and then what saddle goes with that. And that then comes down like the pelvic health. Like, you know, I was asked there recently by a physio that I should get in touch with surgeons who are involved with the pelvis, because this is a serious matter. People are getting, you know, issues with these parts, and it's not something to laugh at. We're gonna make sure that you understand how to look after this part of your body. Footwear, like I said, shoe and the foot. I mean, again, geez, lad, you have me working for my money, like. But this is race nutrition, right? So I mentioned about my degree in nutrition. I've just today registered again with the Nutrition Society, so I'm keeping up my learning in that area, and I just wanted to impart like where the current research is now in nutrition, just literally for sport and for your race. We're not going to get into the bigger areas of that massive topic. Recovery, though, that's a real interest of mine. There's a lovely pyramid that we're going to talk about, and that then just shows like you need to get the basics right, your sleep, your nutrition, but then we will be like looking at where you can go after you hit those two. And this is where the subject of a study, I think that I'd like to tell you about a study I was involved with earlier on this year as an actual subject, looking at recovery bouts within training to give you better, like basically stopping for like a minute during sessions, which would then lead to better recovery and better HRV. That's the metric that we use to see if it's actually effective. So that's that. And I think that brings me to my lot, and I'll hand you to Jack.
So yeah, as I kind of briefly mentioned earlier on, this Recover and Thrive webinar, it's been flying it for the last 2 years. We're running it out to 30,000 staff in Northern Ireland for the civil service. So yeah, I'm hired by the British government, I suppose you could say. Ran out to a load of different companies in Cork as well. To great success. I can show you the reviews, I have the proof. Covers a lot on pain and stress, and how really like pain and stress are much of the same thing. It gives you the process of, well, one, why they happen, how they happen, the mechanism of how it happens, but then also the formulas of how to solve it. Now, it turns out that the same formula that basically causes your problems is the same one that's going to solve it. And whether you're trying to overcome an injury or whether you're just trying to improve for the sake of improvement, like get stronger, get more cardio, whatever it is, the formulas are all the same. They're really, really simple. Another part of that workshop is we go through very basic principles behind mobility. So, for example, like we could think, geez, what's the perfect exercise to do for my shoulder? You know, and there could be 1,000 of them. And you can get very bogged down and lost in all that and then think, oh, I need a professional. But really, if you can understand that the shoulder, okay, first off, it has all of its range. And generally speaking, it loves two things: appropriate dosage of loading in either compression or distraction when a separation. So compression might be me pushing against the wall, using my range of motion, and then building my load over time and all the different angles. Whereas distraction might be, you know, swinging off a branch or something like that. So we go through that breakdown of each joint and give you the formula of how to improve it. It's like, if you can nourish something, it's bound to thrive. And when that's happening, you have no room whatsoever for dis-ease. So that's the Recover and Thrive. Next for me would be kind of the subtle skills. So I'll go in depth into the foot. I often think the foot is kind of like when we think of like the 50s and 60s, and you'd have had doctors recommending smoking. And nowadays we think that's mental. How stupid were human beings to believe that crap, right? Well, I think in 50 years' time, we look back at how we treat our feet in the same way. Or we have so much extra potential to gain from our foot when we actually start to understand it and start to nourish it again. It's really, really, really important. And again, a bit more on the breath. Now, well, I talk a lot about the breath as well in terms of what Robbie was saying too, which is getting yourself into that nice parasympathetic nervous system, which is huge for recovery. But again, like John and like Robbie, I'll also be covering a lot around the mechanics of it, trying to get us more using our diaphragm and less kind of dependent on our neck musculature and our shoulder musculature to do all of the work. And I suppose just the end, you know, we'll go through running gait analysis, explain different techniques, tips, tricks, and hacks, and so on, that can improve your gait analysis to make you more efficient. Again, when you're more efficient, you're going to last longer, you're going to perform better, you're going to feel better, and you're going to enjoy it better. Then we're going to recap. We're going to go back in amongst different parts of the course again and just go over subtle things. And then in-house Q&A, you know, which there will be an element of every night anyway, but like on the end, we really want to, you know, if there's any gaps in your knowledge, we really want to fill them up there. And then that is pretty much the end of the course. So like, we'll, you know, just like every other night we're in-house, we're going to have the tea, the coffee, and so on. So I suppose what's next is to actually show you where all this is happening, right? So John's on camera. He's going to show you the whole room, right? So we have a nice big wide open space, really, really nice. Over here in this section, we have the treadmill. Again, we'll do a running analysis, a weight section, different kettlebells, different stuff, bench, beautiful mirrors for those vain people and for people who like biofeedback. That's the real reason. We have a touchscreen projector, which we might use for certain presentations as well, which the whiteboards. We have loads there. Going to take you on a little walk. We have two other, we usually use them as treatment rooms. So we have available like a massage, soft tissue room, but then also the bike fit room. But we will be using these rooms throughout the course when we break into groups. So here is a lovely treatment room, nice and cozy, nice and plenty. And then where John's magic happens, the bike fit room. So John can go through all different equipment in here as well, from the saddles to everything else.
Yeah, that's like what I was talking about earlier, folks, like the pelvis and the saddles, and just knowing what type of sitting position you need, what type of saddle you need for how you sit on the seat.
And so basically then, if take you back in, that is pretty much the what's going on. So
I know we just briefly touched on the gait analysis. That's like the last week there, you know, and that's our treadmill in the corner. It's a big part of my service I offer. So there will be a group, you know, there'll be a few guinea pigs picked out on the treadmill. We will be looking at your gait, and then of course giving you the, you know, the imagery is a key one there for gait analysis. Using, like, you know, the wheel is a beautiful imagery for getting that forward lean. There's a few more that we can impart there around gait analysis. So yeah, that's it. That is week 6. Well-rounded athlete. Nice to finish on that.
the last thing to kind of talk about is the breakdown of the course, what you actually get, and what you probably all want to know as well, how much is it going to cost us, and what do we get for our buck. Just to go through this, right? So basically what you are getting, so you'll all see in the price above the early bird price, which is available until the 24th. Now this is, again, we're aiming to start the course on the 6th of February, provided we get the right amount of numbers and so on. Now if we don't get the numbers, we will hold off the date, but we will still be running it. So, you know, if you end up paying, don't worry. And then after the early bird, it'll be $8.50. Now there are discounts already available to different club members. So I believe the Crosshaven Tri and Cork Tri Club members have a 10% further discount on those prices too. So what you're getting, get a weekly 90-minute workshop with 3 experienced, really good looking therapists. You get a weekly webinar with the 3 of us. You get a weekly Q&A session, which whatever questions you think of on the day or think of throughout the week, you can send us into us before the Q&A or during, and we will answer them for you. You'll be getting a Google Doc with access to course material. So we'll have a PDF of all the different stuff that we cover. We'll also be recording every session. So if you miss something, it's going to be there for you. We'll have a WhatsApp support group. So again, if you need to ask us questions or pop something in, or you want to share some success that you had during the week, or you want to bounce off each other, or check if there's somebody around to go for a run on a Friday or whatever it is, it's all there for you. Additionally, you'll get 10% off all of Jack's mobility coaching package and physio and massage services. You get 10% off all of Robbie's physical therapy and private coaching. You get 10% off VO2 max, so metabolic testing, VO2 max, and resting metabolic rate. Physiotherapy and bike fitting, saddles and cycling footbeds, and running gait analysis with John. And we will also have extra discounts on upcoming workshops and services, and other potential discounts that we're working on, but we won't say too much on that for now. So as you can see, like, there is a lot in that. So you can just have a quick brief look over that, and I'm just going to slightly go and fix a camera and come back to you. So I'm just going to leave that there, lads. Even if you want to talk over it for a while, by all means, go for it.
Now would be a good time to start formulating questions. If you have any, feel welcome to unmute yourself and speak vocally, or put your question into a chat box. We're more than open.
We've even taken on the couch to encourage a relaxed environment. As you can see, this is our cozy corner in the studio, and we want you to just don't hold back. Like, anything that you think that is worth asking is usually worth asking.
There aren't questions already there, are there?
Maybe. So again, if you want to pop them, if you're afraid of talking and all that, you can pop them into the
that's
chat.
A great question, but Jason.
Jason, yeah, how are you, Jason?
What days of the week are the sessions?
So Jason, the in-person workshops are scheduled to be on a Tuesday evening, starting at 6:30 p.m. and finishing at 8 p.m. The following session, which will be the webinar, and if I'm right to say, is the Wednesday,
yeah,
at 1 to 2 p.m. So we want to schedule the webinars so that they may fit into the average working day. Yeah. So on your lunch break, you can tune in. Now, all webinars will be recorded. So if 1 to 2 doesn't suit you, you'll still have access to the information that suits you, and also the questions and answer to round out each week. That session is also going to be on the lunchtime period, which we've considered to be between 1 and 2 on each Friday. So you're talking about an in-person Tuesday evening, 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m., and then lunchtime Wednesday and Friday for the online stuff, which will all online bits and pieces will be recorded and available in your own inbox.
Yeah. I suppose one other little thing on that was we're looking, look, this is the first time we're launching the course. So like we'll probably have a small group initially. So like if, for example, 80% of the people that wanted to join the course just couldn't do Fridays or couldn't do whatever we'll look at rescheduling that to suit the group. So that's, you know, it's not absolutely nailed on. You have to do what you're told and all of that. So there is an element of flexibility there.
Anything else, guys?
I think that's a sign that we must have had a very concise and
Yeah, we
substantial
ticked all the boxes.
Yeah.
Coffee, do we mention?
Oh yeah, you'll see kind of over
New coffee machine
there
in the house.
Brand new €600 worth of coffee machine, so you'll always be fueled and buzzing. This coffee table right in front of us is usually full of biscuits and different things like that. John will be around with his apron and doing his baking. So,
and like, you know, this space is like a space where you'll all be, or whoever, those who join us will be able to learn from each other. We found that recently. We found that after workshops that it's just a great space to gather afterwards, and before even, just so your kind of go-to spot.
Yes, that's a good point, because after let's say the in-person workshops, there'll nobody be hunted out the door. We're in a way looking to cultivate a community that I suppose pick up what we're putting down in regards to the ethos of both taking care of yourself as triathletes, but also enjoying the process. And that's not a common ideology across triathleticism, but it's something we'd really like to plant the seed on and to grow. And for that to grow, we pretty much have a space here. So if some of you guys are picking up what we're putting down, you're going to stay here, rub shoulders, and share your own experience. And that's always the case, I think, with the courses like this, where people come together. As much as we have a dedicated curriculum to impart on you guys, the amount of learning that's done from each other is invaluable. And it'll probably happen here in this communal section here. Like,
that's it. Like we put in, you know, what you get for the price and whatever. It's like, okay, so we have an hour and a half in-person workshop, but really, like, sure, that's probably, that can go up to 2.5 hours depending on the night. And like I'm happy to hang around and chat and drink tea and everything, you know. And like I know there's some of you there in that are interested in joining, that like you have such experience already in races and different things that I'd love to learn from you, for example. And a lot of people are a lot kind of more genius than they probably even recognize they are. And a lot of people often don't have the tribe in which they can share that. Tribe it, you know. And like anything, that's massive. It's just cultivating the culture around it, getting people sharing the value that they have, whether it's, you know, I pulled a race out of the bag one time, or I thought I was failing in a race and I managed to cross that line, or whatever it is, or I had that injury before and this is how I, you know, went through it, or whatever. Like all of this, it's huge. And the more experience we can get together, the more we can share it, foster it, and so on. Then, look, the next course that we run is going to even better again. And the next, you know, the next time you're like, it's just everything. It's, what's the phrase? It's like a rising tide lifts all boats.
So I suppose it's the time to ask them if you have any questions at all. Now is a really good time. Also, you can always email. And we'll get on to you through email too if nothing comes about now. Don't consider this the end of communication by any means.
I will pop in to the group chat. Just the link. It's to John's website, Bike Fit Physio. It's a link to the kind of more information about it. You might have already seen this now already. And there's, so if you want to purchase or whatever, that's in there as well. As he said, email away. We're all on Instagram.
If you need to have a chat, that's of course absolutely fine.
Whatever you need to do. So that the early bird, as I said, is for the next 14 days. And then beyond that, it's another 2 weeks out till the start of the course, provided we get the numbers. And it's said, like, if you end up, say, paying or whatever, and we say, oh, look, we're waiting on a few more numbers, and we decide it might be ran on the 14th of February, well, maybe not Valentine's, but you know, it could be a week pushed out, could be 2. But ideally, we're gung ho for the 6th.
And we're gung ho to run it.
Yeah, gung ho. This will be happening one way or another. And we're looking bloody well forward to it.
Yeah, we want to change the game.
Change the game, yeah. Like, I mean, would it be true to say that, like, you can be a bit a bit too in the watch and what's happening with all these metrics, and just maybe missing out on the bigger picture? And that's what we're trying to give you, that, like, what's happening in the body and your physiology, but also in your actual joints. And
yeah, so that, like, you're dancing with gravity as you're running the roads, and you're enjoying the experience of training itself, and not getting caught up in the numbers, which can happen. I don't know if it's happening with you guys. I hope it isn't, but if it is, we certainly want to steer you back into enjoying the experience, because, you know, life is short. We're all going to die. Nobody gets out alive. And if you guys are jumping into the water, running across whatever terrain, traveling across cycles, that's already epic adventuring.
That should be. But I think
you're already there. You're already there. Yeah,
it can be hidden.
Actually, I have a question for you, for the participants. Is there anything that we haven't put in the course, or that you feel we haven't put in, or that maybe we just haven't covered, that you think, you know, that'd be a big one for you, or you think we should add in, even off the bat now with just a few of us in here? Is there anything that stands out to any of you that you think we could add to this? And I'm taking silence as a good sign, and a bad.
It's like an interview, you know, at the end of the interview. Do you have any questions?
I think we've got, man.
If it comes to you at a later date, of course, please do. We welcome any ideas. It's not concrete.
All right. We bid our guests good evening.
Yeah.
All right, lads. Thanks for your time. Thanks for listening to us. I hope it was worth your attention, and it's greatly appreciated. And if we see you in the future, excellent.
Sweet.
Yeah. I sentiment all of that, and I look forward to working with you all. Jason, thanks, lads. Very interesting. Jason, thanks a million. Bye. Fair play to you. We hope to see you there. Jono, thank you. Thank you.
Cheers, lads. Thanks a million.
Nice one, Rob.
Cheers, Robbie.